Hello, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I paint geraniums. I'm going to do this as simply as possible and show you what I hope will be a few easy steps to painting geraniums. I think it actually took me about 15 minutes to do, and I've painted three blossoms or three flowers, but one of them got squashed together, and I didn't want to change that because I just wanted to show you exactly what I'd done. I painted my canvas with French ultramarine blue and titanium white, and I'm using a paint pen to draw on the stems just to show you how easy it is to do that. And you could also use a rigger brush, a liner brush, and I'm going to show you that as well. So it's your personal choice how you do that. Because I'm keeping it simple, I'm doing three of everything: 3 leaves, 3 stems, 3 blossoms or flowers. The flowers are made up of florets, tiny florets, and they always have some unopened that sort of hang down from the base of the flower. So I'm going to put those in using a paint pen, and it will be an almost half open bud. I like to paint in odd numbers, so I'm doing 5 of these downward facing stems. Not much of this original sketch will be visible by the time I finish the painting. By the way, if you enjoy the video, please give me a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button to see more of my videos. That helps the algorithm find me. It helps my channel to grow. And I'd very much appreciate it if you could do that. Thank you. When you look at some geranium leaves, you see a dark line of pigment, sort of a reddish brown, and I'm putting that on now, which is probably too early, but I'm using it as a sort of guide, really, and it may not show through to the end. I'll probably have to adjust that. Obviously, this is a very quick sketch, and you can get much more complicated and refined if you take your time. I think it took me about 15 minutes to do this, and I didn't count the number of steps, but I'm thinking that it's probably under 10. I mean that it took me 15 minutes to do the painting from start to finish. I'm painting in acrylics, and I'm just going to use a damp cloth to wipe off the extra paint that I didn't need there. Quite often with acrylics you can just paint over whatever mistake you've made. They are really lovely, very simple to paint with. I do feel that they look a little hard. I have to work harder in order to make my painting have that soft quality that I get when I'm using water mixable oils. There is a difference. I start off using alizarin crimson for the buds, but it's really not bright enough. When I'm painting geraniums, I like to use cadmium red light and naphthol red. I add those to my palette as I go along, and they are really good colors for geraniums. I do still use the alizarin for the shadows, and quite often sort of mix all three to get the shades that I want. When I paint geranium flowers, I leave them a little more open than, say, if I were painting a hydrangea. I feel that you can see the sky through a geranium flower. I use 4-petal florets, but quite often that's just really a couple of dabs here and there, not a complete floret, and it will still look like a geranium. One thing I have to confess is that I didn't make a firm decision about where my light was coming from, and I've got the pot with the light coming from one direction and the flowers with the light coming from the other direction. I've done that a couple of times recently. I don't know why. It must be something to do with the time change. I blame everything on that. I always think the best way to paint flowers is to choose a mid-tone and put that on first. Paint all your petals in that mid-tone, and then decide where the light is coming from and use a darker paint for the shadow side and your lightest lights for the highlight side. That actually is my way of painting everything. I choose my mid-tone and then highlights and shadows go on afterwards, and I strengthen everything as I go along, the stems, the leaves, the flowers, and they all end up with multiple colors on them. I think it makes the painting look more interesting. I'm going to paint my leaves, and I'm using a 3/4 inch flat. It's quite large and I might have to go to something smaller, but that's what I'm going to start off with. And I paint my leaves by pulling in from the outer edge into the center. I think that looks a little more realistic. Not that I go for realism much in my paintings, and I don't put a lot of detail in. But that's how I paint leaves anyway. I use a Q-tip and some yellowy green to dot on the centers of the flowers. I don't put in too many though. For the soil in the pot, I'll use French ultramarine and raw umber, which are the colours that I mix together to get anything close to black. I don't actually have any black acrylic paint. For the terracotta pot, I have a puddle of reds and I'm mixing raw sienna, which will bring that down to that orangey red that terracotta pots have. But I plan to put some green on there, some white, you know, when you get that sort of, I don't know what it is, I guess it's some kind of salt that's in the clay that comes out and it leaves a chalky white on there. And you get sort of green mossy bits growing on there too, don't you? I want it to look like it's been around for a while. You can see what I've done. I've got the light coming from the left on the pot and coming from the right on the flowers. I've messed it up completely, but I think it's quite a nice painting. Just got a few mistakes in it. Good job, I'm not a perfectionist. I cannot believe that I messed up where the light is coming from. The leaves are all showing the light coming from the right. I think I have to say I must have this pot on a windowsill and there are shutters in the way and light is peeping through and it's hitting the flower from different directions. That's all I can say. Let's think of it like that. I googled imaged geraniums and looked at some leaves, and I think they have 5 veins coming from that sort of little central dip. They're not really heart shaped, but the top of them is sort of heart shaped if you look at geranium leaves. And I always think that adding the veins to geranium leaves makes the whole plant look more pulled together. I don't go for realism, that's not the way I paint, but I do like to add certain things. I like to make sure my stems are well defined and my leaves as well. And I think you can get away a lot with the actual flower, but stems and leaves sort of are what really make a plant look like a plant. In my opinion, somebody else might think differently. Well, that's it really. Not much more to do. Not anything else to do really. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please remember to give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button to see more of my videos. And thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate that.